All right. Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Chewing the Fat. Today is really special because Emily and myself are both coaches with the Simplr Health program, and we have also both done the protocol ourselves as well. So we thought it was a great opportunity for us to share a bit about our experiences with Simplr Health, why we've now decided to take on a coaching role, and what we're up to now.
Yay, very well said, Emma. Yeah, it's been a while. Like we sort of talked about doing this for a little while, so it's good to actually finally get on and have a chat. And hopefully in through our sharing of doing the protocols ourselves and also as coaches on the other side, hopefully that's is of value to other people. That's the that's the intent.
Yeah.
So, because it's both of us, it's like who starts? Obviously, Emma, you have such an incredible story that I can only assume people are going to ask you questions about probably for the rest of your life, um, because of the kind of epic scale of it. And then we've got my story, which is kind of a little bit more of a householder story. So let's start with you, Emma. So you did the protocol like kind of recently, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Um, and so the crazy story about you is that you were a gymnast and retired at 25, and then you sort of like got off track, gained weight, and kind of experienced that being a young person again, having stopped gymnastics, right? And then you took a very short amount of time to get game ready for the Olympics. And in that time, you took on the Simplr Health protocol to help you, right? Am I getting that accurate?
You have been listening and well done. Yeah. Look, a few things obviously in there. Yes, my background is as an elite artistic gymnast. And so I retired at 24, not 25. Makes a
Sorry.
difference, right? And then within that time out of the sport, I was having a lot of fun, things going well. I had never thought about food or nutrition or my body or appearance on a large scale. It had always been like it just came naturally to me. I had experienced a little bit of body image problems when I was actually going through puberty, believe it or not. So when I was maybe like 15, 16 in gymnastics, because I didn't get my period until I was about 17. And my coach at the time was awful to me about it. She look, I say awful. It was the only way she knew how to handle weight, right? And so her
Mm.
method was run around an oval in a sweatsuit, don't eat and don't drink water. Like she literally held up a glass of water and said, see this weighs. Okay. And so the
Gosh.
nutritional understanding that I had was that. And you know, the fear of weight gain, I think maybe came from those experiences. Gymnastics was obviously very heavily obsessed with how you appear. It's a very judgmental sport.
Yeah.
So when I finished gymnastics, I noticed that after I was fine for about a year, I did go vegan, which I now look back and realize I was not getting enough protein. You can do
Mm.
vegan, but you need to do it educated. I was not educated. So I would go out for dinner and get the gnocchi napolitana because there's no meat in there.
Mhm.
However, that's just straight carbs and sugar. Recipe for disaster. And I was going through some hormonal things. So I lost my period for 2 years when I finished gymnastics. Within that time frame, I gained really quite quickly. Like I think from the second I noticed I was gaining weight, 6 months later, I had gained 15 kilos. Now on,
Wow.
yeah,
6 months.
yeah, it was really short turnaround time. I think I noticed like gosh, January, February of 2021. And then it was I found Dean, my naturopath Maria Mackey. She referred me on to Dean. It was in September, and I had like, just hit a level of desperation. I was like, this is ridiculous. I had tried exercising twice a day. watched my calories, watched my macros. Like I knew to an absolute T what I was eating and what I wasn't eating. I saw a couple of endocrinologists. I
Mm.
actually, which I only recently recalled because my mum reminded me, I had an MRI on my pituitary gland. So
Mm.
did you watch that video that Dean sort of sent us as homework from Ben Bickman about estrogens and how insulin plays a huge role in the development of that, right? Um
Yeah.
so what they find is that if you have a tumor on your pituitary gland, it obviously increases your ability to gain body fat, right? Now, I'm speaking that in layman's terms. There's a whole thing behind it. But it was to the degree where I actually got an MRI to see if I had a tumor on my pituitary gland.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're like, this doesn't make sense. But I guess that was such a drastic lifestyle change, right? It's like in that 6 months
Mm,
that yeah, funnel like bet you
crazy.
down this path.
Yeah, crazy. So, kind of very long story short, then I went to my naturopath and she said to me that my insulin levels had risen pretty high, pretty fast. And that was why I was experiencing the weight gain and why I was struggling to lose the weight despite exercising and eating quite low calorie. So
Mm.
I called Dean from the car park of her doctor clinic. And I basically just said, I'm desperate, please help me. And I was like expecting that he was going to tell me I had to like fast for 24 hours or like go on some juice cleanse or something. I was nervous. So I'll never forget when he ran me through the initial consult and showed me what phase one of the Simplr Health protocol is. I'll never forget sitting there and being like, oh, this is so doable. Like that is so much better than I thought. And so led me to that within about 3 months, something like that, 10 weeks. I had lost 13 kilos. I could fit back into my wardrobe, thank heavens. And I became really passionate about it. And so Dean said, would you like to be a coach for Simplr Health? And I said, absolutely, sign me up. So I did my
Wow.
nutrition course. And did you know, it's been about 2 years now that I've been coaching with Simplr Health.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's just like pretty crazy because you really had no idea. And then in 3 months was like a complete, okay, I actually know there's a proven method to how to shed that weight sustainably and how to get healthy. And now I want to, yeah, I want to share that with other people because it obviously made such a big difference to you.
Oh, well, I mean, and I'm sure that you can possibly relate to this all over social media, everywhere. There's evidence for this and oh, do this, because I then realized that my hormones were a bit out of whack. It led me down the path of polycystic ovarian syndrome. And I'm reading all of these things about how you should eat for PCOS. Things
Did
like
you have PCOS or you were just
no, I just
self-diagnosing?
it was it was a classic
Yeah,
Google doctor, right?
yeah, yeah.
So it was extraordinary that I just got to the point where I honestly didn't care. I didn't want to know anything else. I felt like I had researched, like through the roof.
Gone down the rabbit hole.
Yeah, it wasn't helping me at all. So when Dean just basically said, "Hey, do this, follow my lead, and I'll get you what you need," I was like, "No worries." And it was such a dramatic, fast shift. And I was living at home with my family as well, so they witnessed the whole thing with me. They saw what I ate, what I did, and
Mm,
so for all the whole family, we were mind blown with just how basic and simple it is. I think that
mm,
the biggest thing was when you're looking on the internet, there's all these, I'll eat this carrot salad with coconut oil, okay? Because
mm.
apparently that draws the estrogens out of your blood cells. I don't even know.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
This was something, right? And then you just realize like, hey, just eat this and limit this one and be responsible with this one, and then you actually are fine. Like there's nothing wrong with you. There's just something that we can do better, right?
Mm,
So what that sort of opened up for me was the possibility that I could then coach for with Dean and for Simplr Health. And then it was a matter of, okay, well, what can I get up to next? And because I had this sort of like uh newfound love for life again, and had that sort of joy back in my life, because I think I'd lost it a little bit in that period where I felt like I'd really lost myself. The
Mm.
opportunity presented itself for me to start doing gymnastics again. And so I thought, well, stuff it, why not? Had a chat with Dean, had a chat with everyone, and within my circle, my parents, my partner, everything like that. And they all said, yeah, like we back you if you're gonna give it a go. Like we believe in you, we support you, go back into gymnastics. And I said, great. Olympics is in about 9 months' time. Why don't I just give that a crack? And then here I am today, an Olympian.
Um, I'm just gonna like pause for one moment. Do you reckon we're recording?
Yeah, yeah,
Because I don't, it does say that. Oh, it says up there. Okay, cool. Cool. Sorry.
that's
We can
fine.
end it. I just wanted to double check that we
Yeah.
were because I felt like um
So yeah, that was a really what also I could bring to my training this time around was an understanding and education around proper fueling for performance, because in the past that had never been the way, right?
oh,
That one example, that happened again when I was almost 20 and I was at World Championships, and we got told to lose 3 kilos in 3 days, and we had to eat off dessert sized plates and do our warm up in our tracksuit, right?
oh my
So
God.
this time around, doing training again, I felt as though I had an advantage having the Simplr Health team, and Dean and Trevor, they really heavily advised me and what was the optimal amount of protein to consume, what were some good carbohydrates to be able to consume whilst I'm training. And not only did my physiological makeup shift very, very quickly into being an elite athlete again, but I noticed that I had more energy, I had more power, I could get stronger faster, and my recovery rate had improved, uh, despite the fact that I'm considered an old gymnast.
Mm. So
So,
did you feel almost younger the second time or not necessarily?
no, I've been consistently reminded that I'm old. Uh, but,
Yeah, but like internally, did you go, I'm just as young as I was, when I wanted to retire? Is that how you
no,
felt?
it's been an entirely new experience. It's been a completely different experience. So I don't even compare it really to what it was back then. It's just an entirely new adventure now.
Yeah.
However, I'm sure I'd love for you to sort of share how you got into Simplr Health and what you got from Simplr Health. But it's one of those really life-changing experiences where I didn't actually come into it thinking that I was going to get that out of it. I just simply wanted a weight loss method, and
Mm.
it worked. It supported me in many, many, many more ways than that.
Yeah, I hear that from other people as well that have done the protocol. They're like, this is like totally different to what I expected. And then
Is that
yeah.
is that what happened to you? What I don't actually know how you found Simplr Health.
Well, I've always known Dean, the founder, obviously, and Trevor, who's our head coach. Um, and I've known them for years. So I already had a listening of them. Like, if they're going to do something, they're going to do it really well, and they're going to have a wealth of like knowledge and expertise. And it's going to be something that's operating from a very high level of integrity. Like, I knew that. That's my listening of those guys. So there was no, and that really comes down to like, sometimes word of mouth and getting that referral from someone that that's done it is like super powerful if you know the people that are a part of it. So it took me like a long time to gather the courage to admit to Dean that I wanted help in this area because I was
Really?
embarrassed.
Why?
I was embarrassed by it. And it's so funny because I've always been like an acceptable size. Like, you'd never look at me and be like, "Oh, she needs to lose weight." But for myself, I knew that I was a lot like since becoming a mom and everything, I was struggling. I've struggled with weight my whole life and just not knowing, like not having the knowledge on how to be healthy and
Yeah.
how to sustain weight loss. And now even real knowing that weight loss is is conducive to a healthy body. Whereas in the past, I would have been like, well, weight loss is for vanity reasons only. Well, no, that's not the case, and just being like free to say that, just being so embarrassed by the fact that I wanted to lose, um, I think it was around 10 kilos at the time,
I
which is kind of,
understand that.
which is huge, but also like people come through the program and lose like 50 kilos. So
I
it's
think
like,
I think, and this is, you and I chat about this all the time. That's the thing as well. It's almost when it's less noticeable to yourself, you're in like a little state of denial that you have something there that you want to get handled. And it's like it really takes you recognizing and having courage to actually step up and say, okay, no, I need to, there's something that I feel unfulfilled in and that I can do better.
yeah, yeah. And that was, yeah, there was just like a lot of shame and kind of, yeah, little, I was
What
really like embarrassed about it.
what what gave you the push to get past that?
Oh, like at some point you just go, you just take your, like, what's the word? Like your ego cape or whatever off. There's
So you
another
just
way of saying that. I
you
won't
just
say
one
that.
day you
I was
just
like, I have to, it's okay, Emily, just reach out. Like, what's the worst that can happen? And like, thank God I did because then I did the protocol, I lost 13 kilos, and then I fell pregnant. So I've actually done the protocol twice. So what happened was so when you do the protocol, it resets your hormones, you become fertile. And that we always warn women when they're doing the protocol that if if you need to take contraception or like you've got to be careful because of the processes that happens, which I won't go into. But so I actually wanted a child anyway, a second child at that time. So I yeah, I fell pregnant, so I didn't finish the protocol, and it's very important to finish it all the way through, to really understand, to really be sourceful of it, which we can explain a little bit later. But the reason that I think so, I struggled with weight forever, like forever, but I also struggled with health forever, and the two, and they really go hand in hand. And I was always like, what's wrong with me? Why am I so tired? Why are my hormones not working properly? I ended up working night shift for a job for a year, absolutely screwed with my hormones. And I was at death, I'd spent thousands of dollars, multiple endocrinologists, everything, tried everything, just in a state of despair, like yourself. You have that line in the sand moment and you're like, and then you go down all these rabbit holes of like trying to heal yourself and learn as much as you can. And that is like a trap
Isn't
because it
it
just,
isn't it funny how we just like to trick ourselves into believing that we can find the answer when there's quite literally people that have the answer for us, and it makes actually life so much, we avoid the easy thing to try to do it ourselves.
yeah, that's what I realized later was that all of that was just me outsourcing my health to everybody else. And there's no responsibility over here. So what I love about Simpler Health is that it's like, all right, well, you're responsible. Here's the key. We'll give you the structure and we'll give you the support, but you've got to, if you don't transform who you need to be, then it's like it's a mute point, like, so you got to face yourself and you got to stop outsourcing. And I was really for many years in that victim mentality um of that it was someone else was to blame other than myself. And then when you create those stories, you make them mean more. It's like this compounding effect and you're just in this, what you cannot see the surface because you're so in it. um And it was just a classic case of that. And I think that, in hindsight, I can look back and say I was young and that's what I needed to learn. And it was what I needed to learn. I'm so glad I'm on the other side of that, realizing that don't be so arrogant to think you know it all.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
it's also it's being okay with not knowing it all. It's actually allowing yourself to, you're right, like hold yourself absolutely accountable to the fact that you're in this situation because of you, and you can get yourself out.
Mm.
So yeah, that's so interesting. I didn't know that that's how you got into Simpler Health. And isn't it funny how weight, sometimes at least, weight is what we see. So it's what we use as the reason to finally take a stand towards our health. But for me, for example, not only was I dealing with weight gain, but I'd lost my period. I had eczema, like I had psoriasis all over my hand, which I'd never had before in my whole entire life. Um, so there were all these other health issues that came along with, and the weight gain just was what I needed to give me the push.
Mm. Yeah, I think
That's
because
all.
it's like it is for a lot of people like a real like a point to address.
Yeah.
But I think what people don't understand generally across the board is how linked like any health problem you have um, is it can be linked to like an excess of weight on the body.
Absolutely.
Not all the time, but like, definitely shedding that when you have that lived experience of losing the weight and the difference. I think the problem also is that if you don't put yourself through the process of losing the weight, you don't have the reference point. So
Mm.
when you get that reference point, you're like, holy moly, like this is so much better. Like, no wonder I had so many niggles. I'm carrying around 10 kilos, which is when you think about it, is like a lot. And your back hurts and your shoulder hurts and you struggle to get out of bed and you can't think as clearly. And on the other side of that, it's like, what do I do with all this energy? And then you actually start to like create, like you were like, let's do the Olympics. like,
Yeah.
like, 13 kilos extra, and you would not have been like, let's do the Olympics.
No, gosh, no. So after you had your baby, which is incredible, I remember actually this is a side note, one of the first people that I started coaching on the Simple Health protocol, she was struggling had been overweight her entire life, but she also had really bad polycystic ovarian syndrome and was struggling for a few years to fall pregnant. And it was so exciting working with her. Like I mentioned, one of the first Simple Health clients that I coached, and she fell pregnant, like 6 months into doing the protocol. So same thing as you, she didn't completely finish it because she fell pregnant before the end. But it was like a miracle that she had a baby, because they were actually going to go down the route of IVF. So after you had your second baby, did you go back onto protocol?
Yeah, I did eventually. It took me a little while again to be like, I've lost my way. But I wanted to, yeah, I wanted to get, I say I wasn't, I hadn't learned the first time, um, how to sustain it long term because the maintenance of the weight loss is actually harder than the weight loss itself. And that's something we tell our clients. Um,
Well,
so when I,
I wouldn't even say necessarily that it's harder. I would
okay,
say that it takes more cognitive effort. And when you're actually doing protocol,
yes.
you have a piece of paper telling you what to do. And when you're complete with it, once again, that accountability is back on you. You can't blame a piece of paper for why it's not working.
Mm. Yeah, so when you have to learn the maintenance side, you have to understand your own individual needs for exercise, carb tolerance, that kind of thing. And so here I go again doing the protocol. I lose the weight. I'm like, woohoo, I'm skinny. This is my context. I want to get skinny the whole way through, right?
Yeah.
Um, because that was, what was important to me. I thought that was the goal. But then I get to I don't even, I skip phase 4, like, which is learning that threshold. And did do myself a massive disservice because it wasn't enough to sustain that weight loss because I wasn't at the source. Like, I just thought, oh, actually losing weight is really easy. I can now go ahead and eat what I want. And that's just like that just does not work.
Yeah.
I'm really glad that happened because now I can coach my clients from like really like honing like in like it's so critical to learn that last phase.
Oh,
Otherwise, yeah.
I think I think also we can both relate. I've done the protocol twice as well. After I did it the
Mm,
first time, similar to you, I went into then start coaching and start doing my nutrition course and learning how to coach people through it. And we speak about this all the time. I didn't take responsibility for anything. I lost the weight, my eczema started clearing, my hormones started being, like not perfect yet, but improving. And so I thought, stuff it, I'm done with that now. On to the next. But what I had was like a fear. I had like actually quite a fear of food. I didn't know how my body now responded to things. I didn't know how to properly eat food. And I skipped that education part of it, which, like you
mm,
said, was a complete disservice to myself. So I ended up doing protocol again just to, get my head screwed on almost.
mm. Yeah, it's really important to have a very powerful context that's like long-term health. Like, instead of, because you're going to lose weight as a byproduct of getting healthy. But if your goal is just to lose weight, then it's actually not a big enough goal.
Yeah.
You need it to be greater because weight loss, once you hit it, then what?
Yeah.
Like,
So
yeah,
So what was it? Okay, so it must have been the second time around that Trevor was coaching you, right?
yeah,
And then
yeah.
so what made you want to be a coach? Was it what happened there?
I wanted to be a coach because I remember that feeling of hitting your goal weight, and there was just like there's nothing like that. I don't know. What ha what happened in that time, like in my life just opened up. I got like these amazing opportunities. Um I just started being vital again. Like, my the way that I was engaging with life was very different, and we always say every kilogram has a story, and it's like each kilo is just another layer to peel back to reveal what's really underneath. And it's not to say you can't be fully participating in life when you have those extra kilos, but what we often find as a trend is that people are hiding, they're buying clothes to hide their bodies, not buying clothes because they like them. It's just whatever's gonna like cover up stuff. And they are taking photos from here upwards. They're standing behind people. They're scared to have the confidence to be seen, therefore be heard. It really is like a flow-on effect for a lot of people. And I was like, well, that's really cool. Like, that's a difference that I want to make. I want to, um, yeah, like, what does it take to be a coach? And also, why not become a coach as a powerful context for keeping myself accountable? It's so easy for our internal state and our machinery to knock us out of the game. And so, unless your environment is supportive for like greater possibility, like, you can easily sink back into your past ways of being. And I was like, I'm done with that. Like, I'm done playing small. Like, let's do something a bit more. Let's do something where I'm out here as opposed to in my head all the time, because I've been there, done that. Like, that's boring. I'm not getting any younger. Anyway, that was a long answer, but that was my thinking.
That's awesome. That's so exciting. Yeah, I think similar situation for me. When I was presented with the opportunity to bring this possibility that I had experienced for myself to other people, it was a no-brainer. Yes, of course, I wanted to do that. I remember that feeling of desperation of having a real feeling quite like lonely and unsure of what to do. And if I could be the person to be able to support people in finding what's going to help them feel better, then absolutely, yes, that's what I'm going to do. So I feel very fortunate that I've been given that opportunity from Dean and to be a part of Simplr Health. I think it's a great little community. So it's so fun to get to compare notes with you because I think for me, what I find is typically, yes, okay, I've had a background as being an elite gymnast, but it doesn't change that much of the similarities in our stories and our experiences and what we needed for us,
Yeah.
what Simplr Health did for us both.
Yeah, and even though the stories are like quite drastically different, they're pretty much the same thing. It's like we both had health issues, wanted to lose some weight, went down the rabbit hole. Like, thankfully, made our way to Simpler Health, who got it sorted for us. And then we were inspired by the program and became a coach. Like, you can pretty much parallel. Um, it's basically a carbon copy, right? So, and my only regret is that I didn't find it sooner. Um,
I'm definitely
yeah,
not.
because,
I'm definitely not. If I found it sooner, I wouldn't have done it the same way.
yeah, right.
I wouldn't have done it the same way. I think
Mm.
it took me stepping up and being prepared for that. And I'm really firm on you've got to be prepared to do that. You've got to really want it. It's like anything.
Yeah,
I could have said,
that's
oh,
a very good point.
yeah, I could have said, oh, I wanted to go to the Olympics. Actually, I wanted to go back to training in 2021, but I was not prepared to do what it took. I wasn't. And I'd built, you know, after everything that I'd endured, that's what gave me the ability to do that. And I would say same thing for Simpler Health. When it got to me calling Dean in the car at the doctor's car park, I was ready.
Mm. Yeah, because the last thing, like as a coach, you want a client that's like bringing that program towards them rather than us being like, here like forcing the horse to drink kind of thing. It's like, you want that client to have already had that line in the sand moment where I'm ready. Yeah.
Enough. Yeah.
It makes a really great like client coach relationship when that happens. And obviously things come up for people and there's like, they might have 2 kilos to go and they're up against it and they're ready to throw the towel in and whatever. But by then the relationship is very well formed and you can kind of navigate that together. Um, well, that's what we're here for. So
Well, yeah,
yeah.
I think, and you sort of just touched on it, but what makes it distinct, what makes the Simpler Health protocol distinct is having that coach there, is having that support, is having someone. We are the people that are going to be there in their court, non-judgmental, there to give whatever they require to get the job done, because we recognize that we're standing for you and your health, and you should be doing the same, right? So.
Mm.
Okay, so talk to me about now. Now, this was something you were reluctant to speak about, but obviously at the moment you're on phase one. And
Oh,
I, I said to you, don't worry about sharing about that because I did phase one again when I just first started coaching people because I also think that at the time it gave me a lot more clarity into remembering what I was coaching people on doing.
yeah, like when you're like going through, yeah, when you're going through it yourself, there's a huge amount of like relatability. That's a pro to it for sure.
So
Like it's
how,
not a distant memory. It's
yeah.
yeah.
So how are you finding phase one this time around? What have you noticed for yourself? Tell me a little bit, I guess, to finish off, a little bit about what you're dealing with at the moment, because you're dealing with really quite a lot, in my opinion. Like, you talk about the Olympics and how amazing that is, but in my opinion, that is nothing on what you're handling currently in your life right now. On top of also doing phase one, which, when we've
Mm.
had the chats, I think that phase one offers predictability and it's somewhat easy, but at the same time, there's the difficulties of doing that as well. So tell me about your current experience on protocol.
Yeah, okay. Well, the current experience is because I've already done it before, there was a lot of like past to let go of because I had to create it newly for myself, like not carry all that over, like it should be this way or I that worked that time. Like I'm not the same person as I was the first time. And I think Dean said to me, it doesn't even though you gained weight, it doesn't take away the transformation that happened when you did it the first time. And that's really like you've got to sort of live that experience to understand the transformation for yourself, right? What I am learning is that I have been incredibly stubborn and I think that I can do it my way, which doesn't work. If I'm given the slightest bit of wiggle room and still lose weight, I will take that and run with it. Like I've just been like there's like a lack of responsibility for me like for months, right? Like this has been like pulling teeth for me. I'm only now starting to gain like this awareness. So it's just like, Emily, what are you doing? Like, just do it. Like, don't let any thoughts and feelings you have about the protocol are not relevant. They are not useful. Like, you're just like, just do it, you know? Like, I don't know how to explain it because I'm in it. It's so funny because even though I'm a coach, it's like I can't see everything for myself, and that's why the coach is useful because you can see what I can't see. I'm really like embarrassed about it.
No, don't be embarrassed about it. Like, I think one thing, and I shared it with you yesterday, it took me 2 years to feel comfortable to share like, what I had gone through and my experiences. And people, I don't care. I'm not going to judge you for that. I think you're a fantastic person. And the fact that you're doing protocol again and have the courage to be able to do that and to share about it and to contribute that to other people, I think that makes you a really powerful person and really special to be around. So I definitely don't think it's something that you should feel ever embarrassed or ashamed about, because you should never feel bad about wanting to be your best self and your best version of yourself. And that's what we're here to support people with. So
Mm.
why shouldn't we strive for that as well? I think, if I was still taking on coaching and I hadn't gotten up to anything since in the 2 years, then what would I be able to really contribute to other people? Now what I can hope to give other people, and what I've been handed down to myself as well, is the possibility that people can create their own Olympics and actually do it and actually get there. So
Mm.
in whatever that means, right?
Mm.
So I think that what you're doing is really admirable, and you are living proof that this is what Simpler Health Possibility is all about. And it's ever changing and
Yeah.
evolving. You don't get to a finish line. It's all about, I think Dean said to me one time, integrity is about always being at the bottom of a mountain, I think, rather than being up
Yeah.
climbing. You're always at the bottom of the mountain.
Yeah, it's one of those things like the more you know, the more you don't know as well. And as a mum, there's so many things going on at once, and to really create like this muscle, almost like this muscle memory around prioritizing your nutrition as a number one thing and everything else falls under that is like, I feel like I'm like, clear the path for me, please, like
That's a
that's how
real
I feel most days. That's the best analogy that I have
that's
for that.
But that's fantastic, right? And this is what I'm talking about for mothers out there. You have to be looking after so many things. Yeah, I remember my mom taking me to training, taking my sister and I to training, and we would eat in the car before school. So we would start training at like 6, right? So we'd have our breakfast at like 5:45, go to training. Then we would eat in the car on the way to school. Then we'd have to have morning tea and lunch already packed as well. Then we would eat on the way to training in the afternoon, and then we would eat dinner in the car on the way home, right?
Wow.
So my mum is like a superhero for what she was able to do and also be able to look after herself. And then even like, her mum at the time too, who
Mm.
had dementia. So like as a mum, the fact that you're able to make that work, especially with what you're dealing with your kids, like I think that is incredible that you're able to do that and make it work and be able to contribute that possibility to other people. That's really special.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that like I just there's a it's great to chat to other mums and chat about things like that we struggle with day to day. Like that's really important and necessary. But I also don't want to fall victim of of a few of that sort of oh, it's so hard, it's so busy, it's so this, it's so that. Like one of my youngest child is going through chemotherapy, as you know, Emma, but just sharing that. So that's been like another element. And I'm like, I don't want to, this could go on for a while. I don't want to be a victim of that circumstance. I want to prove what's possible in the face of of something like that as well. It's now more than ever time to double down on me
Yeah.
because I am the mothership here. If I go down, everyone's going down. And there's just this added kind of component to our family at the moment that um, requires like just a greater capacity. So it's like,
I have
am I
goosebumps.
gonna think, yeah, like that the overwhelm of that can get, I'm a human being. Like I had a breakdown this morning and that's okay. But um, I think what's important for me is to be up to something greater than my circumstance because that's going to pull like that's just going to help everybody. So that's sort of my thinking around that. If I'm 5 kilos overweight, that's not me. Um, that's not that's out of integrity for me, because I that's there's some sort of disempowering context underlying that needs to be sorted, and it's uncomfortable. Transformation is uncomfortable, but gosh, it's good when you actually get there. And you never really get there, as you said. You're at the bottom of the mountain at all times. It's just part of being human. So yeah,
I love that.
I
I
don't
think that's a
I don't
good.
know what I just said. I don't know what I just said then.
No,
Not a
I got goosebumps. It was really good. It was really empowering, and I loved what you sort of said about being the mothership and you're man in the fort right now. So it's important to be your best self. So I feel like that's the perfect place to leave that there and we're going to do this again because I think there's more and more things that we can catch up on. Maybe if we even do one in a fortnight and we can talk about where you're at now with phase 1 and what you've noticed for yourself again just in a fortnight, what you're dealing with, because I think that your life constantly has all of these moving parts and I think a lot of people are able to relate to that and understand that. Similarly to me, I've been back from Olympics for like 6, 7 weeks, getting back into coaching predominantly, seeing what else is possible, creating my next Olympics,
Mm,
both still at the bottom of the mountain. So, yeah,
yeah.
thanks for the chat today, Em.
Oh, thank you. Thanks. Yeah, it's obviously like, yeah, great to chat to you about this because these conversations you don't always have in your everyday. And that's what I love about this, being a coach, being under the Simpler Health umbrella, chatting to someone like you who's up to some really exciting things as well. Um, just a constant source of inspiration. You are, Emma.
Thanks,
Um,
likewise.
and a bloody good
we like
coach as
we like
well.
to fluff each other up.
We do. Yeah.
All right. Thanks everyone for watching today. Really appreciate it. If you've got any questions or there's anything you want to know, in particular for another upcoming tune, the fact that M and I'll do together, we should call ourselves M and M. I like that a lot.
I know it's a bit confusing,
Kind,
isn't it?
kind of goes against our whole stand for health, but we could make healthy M.
Yeah.
All right.
I didn't think of that. But
Uh,
I love the healthy M&M. I it would be really cool to know like what people want to know. Like what are the things that are people are genuinely confused about when it comes to restoring your health or weight loss. Because yeah, I think that would get pretty juicy if we could answer some of that as well. So yeah.
Sounds good. Drop us a comment. Thanks, guys.
Alrighty. See ya.